You know, the last session is always bittersweet. And I thank you, David. Yes. That was wonderful. And those children are beautiful. You know, I see a lot of darkness. And so I have a picture of my granddaughter on my cell phone, Lua, with her big eyes and a beautiful smile. And I look at that face 2 or 3 times a day to remind me that there's purity and there's beauty and loveliness and goodness in the world. And I see it in the face of my my granddaughter. And I have felt that here this week. I want to thank you for receiving me and accepting me and letting me be part of your lives for a week. And it brings me to the third thing that I do need to talk to Robin about, or else I'm going to be in big trouble. Robin, we have a Roth, right? Because I don't know anything about money. I could care about money or platform or power or visibility. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But I do love people and I love Jesus. So we have a Roth, right? Okay, I want to give a little bit of that Roth. And we'll talk about it. To Cannon Beach. Are you good with that? Well, come up here and give me a kiss on the cheek so I feel secure. No, seriously, I need that kiss right now. So Cannon Beach is going to be getting some money from the Mazariegos family. And it might buy a mattress. That smells good and flowery. No, it's really been great to be here with you, and I really mean that. We're gonna give to this ministry, and thank you, Robin, for being in agreement and in submission to your husband. Now, all the women who used to like me. All right. I know that's a controversial, delicate doctrine, so I'm going to stay away from it. So we got to finish the story. Basically, what we've done is we have seen the making of a king. I'll confess to you, I'm one of the most boogery speakers in the universe, and you can edit out my honk. That's the beauty of technology. What I've tried to do when I thought and prayed about what I wanted to contribute to the week, because there's so many things going on and there's so many things that God's doing in your life, and it's not solely the speaker, it's you, each other, and the fellowship and all the activities and the reminder that you're not alone and that there's people that love you. And we all go through stuff, and it's part of being a human being, and it shouldn't frighten us. We just need to have a few good friends that we can talk to And I wanted to show you that it's all right. And you can have a very successful ministry and really be screwed up. But that's still, it's okay. I mean, not that screwed up, but you don't have to be perfect. And God uses us in our frailty and wonder and insecurity and not understanding everything about him. And he still is working sovereignly. And he's taking us on the journey that we will accomplish his will on earth. And as I started the first day, our identity is made up, and it's being forged through the fires of life so that God can create in us to be the vessel that he wants us to be for the use of his kingdom. So there's greater things going on than just how I feel right now. I'm a part of what God is doing on the earth, and you are also a part of what God is doing on the earth. And he's taking history, and we're going to get to a place of consummation when he establishes forever and ever his kingdom. And we get to be a part of that. And it's very exciting. So I don't see my identity being developed for me. It's developed for how I can participate in what God's doing on the earth and accomplish his will for my life, my little grain. Remember, we talked about that. My little grain, so I can fulfill it and be faithful to it. And that God would call me his good and faithful servant. And it's an amazing way to live. So what I've done is I've tried to work out a process where we can think about those things. We can think about our humanity and think about who God is and how he's working on the earth and fulfilling his will. He will accomplish his will. It's guaranteed. He's God. He's not up in heaven chewing his nails, wondering, well, man, these people are messing it all up. No, he's got it all under control. But we suffer because we live in a fallen world. And we have a sinful nature. And a young man came up to me and he says, well, what do you mean by that? That you have a healthy respect for your sinful nature. Well, I believe our sinful nature is very powerful. I don't take it for granted. I'm very aware that it's alive and it wants to trap me. I don't thank God and say, I'm glad I'm not like that dude and what he did. I'm thanking God that he gave me the grace not to do it. So I live with a real sense that sinful nature is in me, and I need God's power and his Holy Spirit in me so that I can obey him and follow him and serve him while I have life. And then I'll have eternity. I mean, I can't wait because we're going to rule and reign with God. And man, I have an image of what I'm going to look like in heaven. Man, I'm going to be like long hair. And I'm going to have my chariot of fire. And I'm not going to have skinny legs. No, man. They're going to be like busting loose. My legs are going to be busting loose like Troy. And Rama's going to be seeing me flying by, and she's going to say, oh, he's fine. So I've got all, and then God's going to open a curtain. And he says, okay, John, you're going to rule and reign with me now. You're responsible for this universe. Check it out. That's my universe. It's mine, right? My universe. I'm ruling that. Okay, God, we're on. Because the Bible says that we're going to be priests and kings. We're going to rule and reign with him for eternity. And the priestly part is that we're going to be worshiping him forever. And I don't have dreams of hell. I do not have dreams. I have dreams of heaven. And man, I got to go to the bathroom early in the morning, and it ruins it because I say, God, please let me get back to the dream. I want to get back there. I had to go, but now I want to get back there. And in the dreams, man, it's so wonderful because my friends, this kind of bothers me though, but they're really happy that I made it. They go, Maz, you made it. Of course I made it. Man, we're so glad you're here. Well, I'm supposed to be here. And man, everybody, and it's like those beautiful little European, Danish neighborhoods and the floors of gold, and everybody's in the balcony, and everybody's happy, and everybody's walking to go see the Lord. And they're saying, Johnny, come on. We're going to go see the Lord. And I'm still kind of bothered by the fact that they didn't think I was going to make it. And I have a lot of dreams like that heaven is going to be a place full of wonderful, deep relationships. And they're forever. And our nature is we're not going to get jealous or get mad. None of that. We're just going to enjoy each other. And, I am asking God to keep some people out. But Robin's praying for them, so she's messing it up, So, because she loves God more than me. A lot of you women say that I pick on her. It's my way of celebrating her. Because she's really good. I mean, she is really, really good. And she's got guts. I was on a preaching tour one day, and my little youngest boy the door slammed on his finger and cut off half his thumb. And did Robin go, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh, his thumb is rolling around. She quietly picked up the thumb, put it in a bag of ice, and drove to the surgeon. And she did fall apart when I called her. Honey, how's it going? She did fall apart because I'm the man, I'm her protection. And little Matthew, you see the sinful nature, because when I would get mad at him, he'd put his finger in his mouth. Put his thumb in his mouth, and he'd raise up the thumb like, man, don't be like that with me, because, man, I'm a suffering dude. And so every time I go, Matthew. Well, one day he put up the wrong thumb. So I said, you're a little sucker and jabber. He went, and then I said, that's not the thumb. So Robin has, she is my everything. And, sometimes she thinks she's the Holy Spirit, but that's okay too. Because I know he speaks to her. All right, forget about the family stuff. We're not going to talk about the family stuff anymore. We're going to talk about David and his stupid decision when he goes over to the Philistines and he goes to the king of Gath. And he tells him that he wants to be part of his tribe, and the decision he's made it because let's just look at it very quickly. In 1 Samuel chapter 27, he's tired. He's tired of running from Saul. He's just fed up. He just doesn't want the pressure anymore. And he's thinking, he has a private conversation, and if there's one thing I can encourage you is really watch out for those private narratives, those private conversations that you have. They will determine how you live your life. They will determine the way you make decisions. And sometimes, when you're having those kind of conversations, you got to have them with someone that you trust. And the people that love you will say, I don't believe a word you're saying. And then you go, oh, thank you, Jesus. So remember, private conversations, and David is having one with himself here in 1 Samuel chapter 27. Then David said in his heart, he's talking to himself. That's how we live. Now I shall perish one day by the hand of Saul. He's given up. Saul's going to kill me. I'm going to die by the hand of Saul. That is a statement. That's a declaration of resignation. And resignation is horrible. When I visited the refugee camps in Iraq, the Syrians and the Yazidis, and the thing that really gripped me was the eyes of the women. They were all just resigned. There was no life. They were just resigned. This is my lot in life. And that's what David is feeling. I'm resigned to the fact that I'm going to die. I can't fight anymore. So he thinks up a strategy, which is very stupid. But it makes a lot of sense to him at that moment. And he says, there's nothing better for me than that I should escape to the land of the Philistines. And 600 of his warriors follow him and their families. So it's easily over 1,000 people that go to the Philistine territory. And he pretty much says, I'm yours. And there's going to be a moment where he's going to be stuck, where he's going to be invited to fight the children of Israel. And if he does that, he will be considered a traitor, and he will never, ever, ever be the king of Israel. He will not. He is disqualified. So he's put his destiny in peligro, in danger. He's putting his destiny in danger because he's fed up. He's tired. Opportunities are now limited. You got to find the snake in your life. There's snakes in your life. There was a man that was walking up in the Northwest in the hills, and he was a businessman, and he was thinking about all the possibilities that he had to continue to grow his company. And the birds were chirping, and the sky was blue, and the clouds were, and he could smell the essence of the trees and the creek that was moving. It was a beautiful moment. And boy, he was full of hope, full of possibilities. His future was open until he saw a snake on the road. And when he saw the snake on the road, everything truncated. Every possibility that he was dreaming about, every good feeling that he had, stopped because there was a snake, and he felt his life was in danger, and he didn't know what he was going to do. Should he run away? Should he get a stick? Would the snake charge at him and bite him and poison him? He was alone in the mountains. How was he going to get down? Everything became small. No possibilities. Tunnel vision. Only a life and death situation. And sometimes you got to ask someone, where's the snake? Where's the snake? For one of my daughters, the snake was, she didn't know what she was going to wear the next day for school. And it terrorized her life. It can be simple, but there's a snake somewhere, and you got to identify it, because it messes up with the destiny that God has for you. And the snake for David was Saul. And so his only option was to be a traitor. At least if he was a traitor, the Philistines would not kill him. But he was putting his destiny in play. So you watch those personal conversations and you ask yourself, where's the snake? What am I afraid of? Something's driving me here. And you got to identify the snake, and you got to do what Adam should have done over 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. Beat the snot out of that snake. Because there's always a snake. And you got to ask yourself, where's yours? And so David, we're seeing he's living his snake. Then he says, Then Saul will despair of seeking me any longer within the borders of Israel, and I shall escape out of his hand. And so David arose and went over, he and 600 men who were with him, to Achish, the son of Maoch, king of Gath. So he does it. But he's smart enough that he doesn't want to stay in the capital. So he tells himself and his men, we got to get out of here because we're going to be stinky to these people. We're taking their jobs. We're taking their food. We got to get out of here, and we got to get far away where we're not drawing any attention to ourselves, and we can do some stuff to take care of ourselves. So he asks Achish for a village, and he sends them south to Judah, to Ziklag, which is one of the cities that belong to the tribe of Simeon. He's getting back his land, but he's going through the back door. So everything's fine. He's a raider. He's killing God's enemies, especially the Amalekites, because Saul didn't obey God. God wanted Saul to totally destroy the Amalekites, even the infants, it says there in the Bible. And we talked about what I thought that means. So things are working cool, but all of a sudden, now Israel and the Philistines are going to fight. So if you go to 1 Samuel chapter 28, now his whole program is in danger. And so 1 Samuel chapter 28, in those days the Philistines gathered their forces for war to fight against Israel. And Achish said to David, understand that you and your men are to go out with me in the army. And David said to Achish, very well, you shall know what your servant should do. He doesn't know what he's going to do yet. And Achish said to David, very well, I will make you my bodyguard for life. So Achish thinks he's got, because David had a rep. He was well known. And so he's stuck. Is he going to fight? If he doesn't fight, there's thousands and thousands of Philistine hard-nosed warriors. And they're going to wipe out his whole family and the 600 men that he has with him. So what is David going to do? Now he's in a jam. I love David. I love David because he's like us. He's in a jam. He's thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? And how do I tell the men? So I don't like chapter 28 that much because it talks about Saul. He's all messed up. God doesn't speak to him. And he goes to a witch of Endor and it ends up very sadly. Chapter 28 and 1 Samuel ends in 31. But chapter 29 and 30 talk a lot about David. This is the last part of his schooling. That's what this seminar has been. How do you develop an identity in God that is ferocious and fearless and not perfect? So in 29, now the Philistines had gathered all their forces at Aphek, and the Israelites were encamped by the spring that is in Jezreel, as the Lord of the Philistines were passing on by hundreds and by thousands. You know, Achish is just one king of one city of the Philistines. He's just one guy of many princesses. So all of them are drawing now to go fight Israel. And this army is impressive. I mean, they're coming down. There's thousands of them on their horses. And they're ready for battle. And David is just watching these guys go by. He's saying, oh, man, what am I going to do? And so it says there, now the Philistines had gathered all their forces at Aphek, and the Israelites were encamped by the spring that is in Jezreel. As the Lord of the Philistines were passing on by hundreds and thousands, and David and his men were passing on in the rear with Achish, the commander of the Philistines said, what are these Hebrews doing here? Now that is a what? Derogatory. I told you my English is getting better, and I'm reading better. I just need big letters because these are little letters. But it originates up in Israel, and basically the Hebrew were these nomads that kind of were marginalized and that were on the edges of Egypt. And they would do incursions, and they were like little gnats to the Egyptians. So they're marginalized thieves. They're lowlifes. They have no identity. And so the commander is looking at David, and he says, what are these Hebrews doing here? What are these low-life, no-good street people doing here? And so, I mean, it's derogatory. And Achish said to the commanders of the Philistines, is this not David, the servant of Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me now for days and years, and since he deserted to me? Interesting, since he deserted, Achish sees him as a deserter, as a traitor. He has deserted to me. I have found no fault to him this day. But the commanders of the Philistines were angry with him. And the commanders of the Philistines said to him, send him back, that he may return to the place to which you have assigned him. He shall not go down with us to the battle, lest in the battle he becomes an adversary to us. For how could this fellow reconcile himself to his Lord? Would it not be with the heads of the men here? Is not this David of whom they sing to one another in dances? Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Man, David has a reputation. People know the songs and the dances that they attribute to David. And so these commanders said, no, we don't want him, because what's the best way that he can get back in a good relationship with King Saul? By attacking our rear. He's back there with you. He'll attack our rear and we'll lose the battle because of this bromance you have with him. Now, this is very interesting. You know, we make enemies of people, and we make them beasts and animals. They're people that are different from us. They're people. And Achish is he's a really great guy. He's really good. I mean, David's the one that lies to him, manipulates him. David Sometimes you go, and I'm going to show you why I think David gets away with it. But he's a scoundrel. He's lying to Achish. He's out there as a bandit and killing people, killing especially Amalekites, fathers, wives, children, destroying, not letting anybody alive, so they go back to rat him out with Achish. He's wicked. Don't say that about David. Read the Bible. That's what I love about the Bible. The Bible, we've made Christianity so nice. It's raw. It's raw. And there's stuff in there that you read and you go, man, God, how can you let David get away with that? Isn't there some ethic in the Bible somewhere that, you don't lie to the guy that's giving you a place to live? But David had to lie because he's protecting his people. And look at the way Achish talks to him. I mean, Achish, man, he loves David. And he loves the idea that David is his bodyguard. The fiercest warrior in that moment in time in history was David. I'm going to get close to David in heaven, man. I want to hang. His chariot and we're going to be cruising together up in the air. Go, David, go. Because he's so bad. I know there's a little thug in me, but man, David is like the best. Then Achish called David and said to him, as the Lord lives, you have been honest. That's a lie. You have been honest, and to me it seems right that you should march out in with me in the campaign, for I have found nothing wrong in you from the day of your coming to me to this day. Nevertheless, the Lords do not approve of you. They don't dig you. They don't like you. They don't trust you. So go back now and go peaceably, that you may not displease the Lord of the Philistines. And David said to Achish, now this is funny, man, David is like a dog. I mean, he's going to get upset that he's getting kicked out. He really doesn't want to be there, but he's going to say, but what have I done, man? What did I do wrong, Achish? I mean, man, this is not right. I want to fight for you. And Achish gets all turned on. I mean, look at what he says to David. He says, but what have I done? What have you found in your servant from the day I entered your service until now, that I may not go and fight against the enemies of my Lord, the king? Now, scholars are really debated about who he's talking about as Lord. Is he talking about Saul, or is he talking about Achish? Is David kind of conflicted about a lost opportunity? But anyway, it says here in verse 9, and Achish answered David and said, I know that you are blameless. You read this stuff and you go, God, I don't get it. I know that you are blameless in my sight as an angel of God. And you know what's interesting? He uses the word Yahweh. He uses the name of the Israeli people. You've been an angel. You've been like an angel to me, sent from your God. We got to be careful who we think our enemies are. People are people. That's why it's all listen, observe, act, and resolve. I think we need to deal with people as people. It's a big part of my theology. Well, anyway, nevertheless, the commanders of the Philistines have said, he shall not go up with us in battle. Now then, rise early in the morning with your servants of your Lord who came with you. Now he's saying, well, let me give you some advice. Get out of here before these guys think about it too much. I mean, leave at dawn. Just get out, because they're not too happy with you. And I suggest you leave real early. That's how my Achish, he loves David, and he wants David's well-being. And David, I know, appreciates that, but that's one of the things that we've seen. He is so practical, and he uses people. And you think, well, God, is that the kind of person that you want to lead your people? Because we've seen so many stories like this in David's life. But there's one verse that changes it all for me. That just, okay, now I get it. All right, so they leave. Now, chapter 30. And you're saying, man, you're going to do another chapter? Yeah, I am. It's the last night. And you're going to get the whole deal. Whether you get a smurf, is that what you call them? A smorf? Or not. You can get that any day. You're not going to get this any day. In chapter 30, it says, now when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, it's about 55 miles from where the camp was to the Ziklag, and it's rough terrain. It's hard terrain. And it takes them 3 days, and it says, the Amalekites, again, those Amalekites, had made a raid against the Negev and against Ziklag. And they overcame Ziklag and burned it with fire and taken captive the women and all who were in it, both small and great. They killed no one, but carried them off and went their way. And when David and his men came to the city, they found it burned with fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him raised their voices and wept until they had no more strength to weep. David's 2 wives also had been taken captive. Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal in Carmel. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him. They're blaming him now. A guy that they would have followed to the end of the earth, but now they've lost what's precious to them, and now they want to kill him. And David is brokenhearted too. They've taken his wives. And that's the only place I've seen where David really cares for the women that are his. And they've taken them. And the men have cried, and they don't have any voices anymore. They have screamed. When you see a man who is deeply wounded, and you see the hurt that just comes out of a man, it's breathtaking. It's a hard thing to see when a man has really been broken, and all the men are broken, and they're all crying out, and now they're so angry that they want to kill David, because David brought them to this place, and he got them in that situation. And he had to follow Achish. And he exposed their families because of his stupid plan. And they're going to stone him. And David is he went from a bad situation to a very, 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 very bad situation. And I think, Lord, what is it about David that you love so much? And it's right there in the text. Underline it. Memorize it. In the middle of all that pressure, because leading is tough, the stress of lying and deceiving Achish, the love that Achish has for him, the hatred that the commanders have, the tiredness of David fleeing from Saul. I mean, it is just too much. I can't take it anymore. And now his own men that used to be so faithful, that they followed him to the ends of the earth, now they want to kill him. David just doesn't know what to do. He's run out of ideas. He's a great strategist. You see that in 2 Samuel. He's an amazing military strategist. But right now, he is so utterly undone. And this is why I realize God loves him. And David, verse 6, and David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, and because all the people were bitter in soul, each for his sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. And we have Psalms and Psalms. I love the Psalms. If I come back here next year, because I don't know, they might not. I'm on the thing, so I should be like 95% secure that I'm coming back. But that's all. That's where David comforted himself. That's where David found strength. I mean, I can't imagine the pressure that he's feeling. I can't imagine. No human being should have to bear that kind of angst in his soul, in his being, in his mind, in his spirit, in his heart. And David just goes to God. That's why nobody does that. We do, but we don't go to God like David is going to God. He doesn't lose his cool. I mean, he cried, but he still is of a mind that I'm going to seek the Lord. He's all I've got. When there's no answers, there's no hope. When you're in distress, that's where you run to. That's where you go. I was driving down a street, and my oldest son with me, he was about 11 years old, and a Mexican saw that I had American tags on my truck, and he tried to run me over. He tried to just, and I got ticked, and I followed him. And I got him in a cul-de-sac. And I turned my truck so he couldn't come out. And so he was really drunk. And he comes out with, those little bars that you put on the steering wheel. And he comes out, he says, I'm a Mexican, and you're an American, and you have no rights in this country. And he's really drunk. And Johnny, he's 12 years old, and he's looking at me, and he's looking at the drunk guy, and he's wondering, what are you going to do, Dad? And I knew I could easily take that thing and then drive it up his neck. And everything in me wanted to wipe that guy out because he put my son in danger. And I said, Johnny, get out of here. No, Daddy. No, Daddy. No, Daddy. Get out of here. Get out of here. I want you to get out of here. Run home. Run home. And he knew I was going to do something that was going to be bad. So finally, I backed the truck up and I let him leave. And he was arrogant about it. And he was disrespectful. And so I come home and I'm so furious. And Robin finds out what's going on. I did not want to go into my room with my wife for 3 days. I stayed in the sewing room because I wanted to be alone with God. It took me 3 days to undo the rage that was in my soul. I stayed in the sewing room. It's a small little room. And Robin said, come to bed, honey. Come to bed. No! I'm staying in here. 3 days. And I had to get that thing right with God. Nobody had an answer for me. I didn't need counseling. I knew why I was mad. because there was an injustice done and I wasn't able to make it right. And sometimes you just got to get a hold of Jesus. You got to get a hold of him, and you just cry out to him, and you work it out with him, and you complain to him, and you tell him why you hurt so bad, and you tell him why you are so angry and how your son's life was in danger, and you just tell him every little thing that's in your heart, and you cry out to him, and you just bare your soul, and you don't move until you got a semblance of peace. 3 days, she said, come to bed, honey, come to bed. No! I got to work this out. Remember that, Robin? She don't remember anything, man. I'm happy about that because sometimes I remind her of something that I've done to her, and she goes, why did you tell me? Why did you remind me of that? Now I'm mad at you. So the story of the moral of David is you don't tell your stories when your wife is there because she will undermine it. So let's keep going because how much time do I have? I'll stop right now and pray and take the offering. Huh? No, don't be Christian about it. Just tell me, Okay, all right. It's my last night, you guys. Well, anyway, the rest of the story is that God does everything possible to show David where these Amalekites are. He gets them there. They get their family back. Everything is recovered. But this is what I want to teach you. These are these 3 things, and I'm done. Because they had 600 men, but 200 of them were dead tired. They just couldn't go on. So they stayed back and watched all the equipment, and 400 went. Now, when they came back to give away the booty, the things that they had captured, there was a couple of people that didn't want to give the people that didn't fight anything. So it says right there, verse 22, then all the wicked and worthless fellows, this is how God talks about them. Then all the wicked and worthless fellows among the men who had gone with David said, because they did not go with us, we will not give them any of the spoil that we have recovered, except that each man may lead away his wife and children and depart. They don't get anything. Let them just take their wives and their kids and go. Because they didn't have the strength to follow them down into battle. David doesn't buy that. But David said, you shall not do so, my brothers. With what the Lord has given us, he has preserved us and given into our hand the band that came against us. Who would listen to you in this matter? It doesn't even make sense, he says. For as his share, as he who goes down into battle, so shall his share be who stays by the baggage, and they shall share alike. And he made a statute and a rule for Israel from that day forward. Now, there's 3 things that David's doing there. Number 1, David was not going to follow these greedy guys because David knew that it was the hand of God that gave him the victory. When he had no possibility, no option, no way of resolving the situation, the hand of God gave it to him, and he recognized that. The second thing, he talks about brothers and community. He was going to fight for the unity of the community of the people of Israel. He wasn't going to divide it. He knew that he was going to be a future king, and he had to make sure that everybody was involved. And the last thing, he restored the dignity, and this is what I love the most. He restored the dignity to those people that were weak and couldn't go fight. and he restored their dignity for them. So they didn't have to be ashamed because they didn't go down and fight simply because they just couldn't do it. Those are the things that I think make David king. Doesn't matter how bad things are, he trusts God. And he's equitable. He understands that any victory in life, it comes from the hand of God. And how dare you want to take it for yourself? And we're all a part of a body. And we all don't give the same, but we all get the same. And the last thing is, he will always fight. He will always fight for someone's dignity. And I think he was very ashamed at the way he treated Achish. Lord, thank you for the patience and the love that I have for this. And forgive me for going long, Lord. And put forgiveness in Mark's heart. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.